morning. Starting this live over again because our connection was trash. Just waiting for Natalie. We'll jump in here together. She's just hopping in here.
Take 3.
Take 3. This has got to work.
This is
Okay,
so
good.
much better.
Okay, cool. Okay, sweet. Okay, great. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I have my... Hey, everyone. How's it going? I have my coffee here. And are you set up?
I'm stoked. I'm like, I've got my coffee, my grinds. I have the teeniest French press alive.
Cool. Sweet.
It is quite literally 1 cup.
Yeah.
And I've got my water. So.
Okay, sweet. I gotta get my water. 1 second.
Yeah, get your water. So today we're going to be doing French press, and it's kind of the first brewing method we wanted to tackle because it's super easy. Most people have a French press, or you can get one really cheap. I was at Dollarama. They were selling them for $4. I don't know if I trust it, but you can get it for cheap. They're eco-friendly. They don't have any waste, so there's no filters or paper or anything. And they do not take any level of skill, just patience.
Just patience. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, I really like the French press because you get a really full bodied cup, which without the frills of what you said, having to know all the coffee things, and it's really simple. So basically full body, for people who don't know what that means, is talking more towards the strength and texture of a cup of coffee. So when people talk about body, that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So how strong does the coffee come through in relation to acidity, and how strong are we tasting the coffee? And just such a simple way to make coffee. So let's get started here. So today you want to talk a little bit about the brewing ratio and stuff you were telling me about?
Yeah. So people maybe don't realize this, but every brewing method has a general ratio. So there's a little bit of math involved with coffee, and when we do like brewing at home, like at a French press, there's a typical ratio, so you know how much coffee to make, and you're not just guessing all over the place. You're like looking at the bag, like how many tablespoons, what does that mean? And what the ratio is, for our simple French press recipe, usually what they do is like 16 to 18 grams of coffee per 300 milliliters of water, which is the same as 300 grams of water. Learned that last night. Milliliters and grams in water
are the same.
Little science trick for you. So that's a ratio. But when you do the math of like, okay, well, it's like 1 to 6.
Yeah. Right.
So that way you can scale up. So you're like, for every 1 gram of coffee, I'm going to have 6 grams of water. So that's when we go from, in our ratio today, we're doing 18 grams of ground coffee to 300 grams or milliliters of hot water. So that's like if you have a scale. If you don't have a scale, I did some scientific experimentation. 18 grams is about 3 tablespoons level whole bean or 4 tablespoons level ground.
Yep. Right.
That, and then milliliters, you should be able to have a measuring cup that has milliliters on it. Like my little measuring thing has it. So that's kind of one way to get around it. We do recommend a scale. I mean, talk through our recommended brewing method, like our brewing method.
So what Natalie and I were saying is that the best way to brew a cup of coffee in general, but we'll talk about the French press today, is you want to try and eliminate as many variables as possible, meaning you just want it to be as simple as you can make it. So a scale will help you huge in making consistent good cups of coffee. So we recommend getting a scale if you can. This is just like a little cheap one. I didn't pull out any expensive, fancy, schmancy one. Yeah, we both just have like kitchen scales.
Yep.
A grinder. We had a couple questions last week. We had one about which grinder could I get started with, and we didn't really for something that's like really, really, really affordable. Maybe for someone that wants to be in like maybe like the $50 range or something really low key. Just make sure you're getting a burr grinder. The little burrs, I wish I could take this apart, but basically the burrs sit in each other, and the sizing of the neck on the grinder will ensure that your grind size is always the same.
Yeah.
Instead of the, I don't even know what you would call them, the push and the blade. Yeah, the blade grinders that are like just hope for the best.
Yeah.
So grinder, scale. I would say those are probably your best bet. Either one, if you decide to get a scale, your coffee game's gonna go way up. If you decide to get a grinder, coffee game's gonna go way up. If you decide to get one, amazing. If you decide to get both, you're a pro, basically. So, yes. So I did not pre-grind because I am purely authentic to coffee community.
I freaked out because I was going to be so loud.
I'm gonna make a racket right now. So I'm gonna go. My grind size, which we also learned about, is about medium, like right in that line where you would just make like a regular drip coffee in a machine. You want it to be the same for French press, so that we'll teach you about that later. But I'm just gonna make noise. This is the real experience.
This is the real experience. This is the real waking up, making coffee kind of morning. I'm very excited about this.
If you're not waking up your friends and housemates or significant other, then you're doing something wrong.
You're doing it wrong.
So we got French press in hand.
Mm-hmm.
We got boiled water.
Mm-hmm.
We got ground coffee.
Yeah.
I will usually put a little bit of hot water in my French press
to
keep it warm.
Oh, okay. I'm like,
you're
pouring water coffee on your scale, bud. What you doing?
And then use that water to heat your French press and put it in your cup and keep your cup hot while you brew.
That is a pro. I'm not doing that only because I hate super, super, super hot coffee. So.
Okay.
All right. So I'm putting my grinds in this thing.
Yes. Grinds in. Grinds in. I am on my way.
Skill.
On my way. Still got a little bit of water in there.
Okay.
Is everyone keeping up? Is everyone following with what we're saying? If you have a question, just drop it in the chat. We'll get to it.
All right.
If it's French press related, we'll jump on it. Okay. What's next, Natalie?
Okay, so my French press my coffee's in my French press. It's on my scale here. I don't really like moving my thing, but I'll.
We have a question. How do you know how much coffee to use?
Ooh.
So, one thing that we want to mention is know what size French press you have, which can be a little hard to decipher. I have a pretty normal, regular size French press, which is an 8 cup, which is, I only know it because it's about the size of my head. But for yours is like a tiny little 2-cupper. And something we should note is
this is called a 3 cup, which doesn't make any sense.
I was gonna say
1 cup.
Yeah. So when it says cups, it means like tiny, like 6-ounce cups, which is smaller than this guy. So don't really, when you hear cups and you're like, oh, this will make 8 cups of coffee for 8. Like it won't. It will make tiny cups for 8 people. But if you want like a real cup, it'll make like a decent like 4-ish. So with that said, if you know how many cups you're gonna make, let's just say per cup, put in 18 grams. Let's just say what we're doing today, we're making like a cup, like me and Natalie are making 1 cup. So put in 18 grams if you're gonna make 1 cup, and then fill it to 300 grams. Fill it to 300 grams.
And we'll add
And if
that
you don't,
in the caption below.
yes. And if you don't have a scale, then use a measuring cup. Because milliliters and grams are the same thing.
Yeah.
Boom. Okay.
That's why
so
like recipes with coffee are so great, because they are ratios. You can just double them. Like you can forever double it, and it's totally.
Yep. Every mug you're gonna do, 18 grams, and make sure you have enough water. So that again, that 1:16 brew ratio. So you're putting in 18 grams of dry coffee, and you're putting in, I think you said 300, but I think like 1:16 is like really like 288, but we're doing like a 16 something. So let's say like 18 grams of coffee, 288 is a 1:16. I'm pretty sure. 1:16.
Yeah, it's easy. That's
Joe
why
is asking. Yeah. How strong of a cup does that give you? So 16 brew ratio is right in the middle of brew ratios. So the range of brew ratios goes from 1:15 to 1:17, depending on what you prefer. So if you want something that's got a little bit more strength to it, it won't be like a massive difference, but you'll notice a little bit. So 1:15. If you want a little bit more coffee and water and still adequate strength for it to still be like really, really good and at its peak taste and quality, then 1:17. 1:16 we're just recommending because it's right in the middle.
Yeah.
All right, let's go for it. So
want to give a strong.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Love that lag.
Go for it.
Sorry about that. Didn't mean to go for you. As I think you do, like obviously what bean you're using will completely influence the strength. So I'm using a medium roast from Stock and Crown. Shout out to Matt. But usually I do light roasts. So where you think of French press usually as this big roasty cup, if I'm still using a light bean, it's not going to be the hugest, strongest cup ever. What bean are you using, Matt?
I was actually going to brew this. Okay, I'll go pour my water first.
Tell us.
And then I will tell you. Yay, pouring hot water into dry coffee. Sorry if this is making just.
Yeah, our water's getting cold.
288. Perfect. So, I have all my water in. You have almost all your water in?
Yep, I'm taking my time. And the other thing that's nice is you don't need a gooseneck kettle with a French press.
Nope.
Whereas you do with a pour over.
You just fill that puppy up.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm gonna do when I have all my brew water in is I'm gonna put my net here, the plunger, just to the top level of the coffee. I'm not gonna do anything else. I'm gonna start a 4-minute timer.
Tell me when your 4 minutes is up. I'll use your timer as well.
Yes. Okay. All right. So my coffee. Your French press. See, this is how you can tell the levels are so drastic. Her French press is full. Mine is right here.
Like you cannot fill more. Like I would not recommend. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So unique coffee that I'm drinking today. Last week was Stock and Crown as well. This week I want to switch it up. From new friends at Vortex, which is a new roastery in Prince Edward County. I just found this packaging really interesting. And it's a half caff, which you never see ever.
I like.
Yeah, which I was like, I like the people on the cusp doing fun things that are unconventional. This is a medium roast, Ethiopia and Peru, blended with a decaf Guatemala and a decaf Brazil. So I'm very interested. They also do these cool artist series where they change their labels with different, you can see that there.
So nice.
It's pretty sweet. So yeah, Vortex Coffee, check them out. This is also recyclable, biodegradable bag. Pretty sweet. So That's what I'm having.
That's amazing.
Any other questions people have? Just drop them in the chat.
I know.
The questions coming in.
The other thing that was really interesting, so both Matt and I did a bunch of French press research before today because we wanted to be up to snuff when we were talking to you guys. And there was a lot of fun, like, extra things that I've seen people doing with their French press. Most notable is making cold brew in your French press because it has that plunger filter built in. It's so easy. Put your coffee in it, put cold water in it, put it in the fridge overnight, plunge it in the morning, pour your cup, and you have cold brew if you really like cold brew. It's a really fun thing you can do. And another thing that I saw, and I didn't know if it was going to be good, but one of the world barista champions did this in competition, so it is specialty coffee approved. You can heat up milk and put it in your French press and basically, Matt's already, he's like groaning. He's like, what? Basically aerate your milk by plunging your, plunging your, and it'll
going hard on it.
Like straight up. And,
yep.
It's
I've done it before.
You know, it's going to be a decent foamed milk. So there's a lot of fun things to do with a French press. And again, it's no waste, which I appreciate. Cleaning is not the funnest because you have to disassemble that guy. But
right.
It's still pretty cool.
We got another 1 minute. 1 minute.
Any method to pouring the water in?
Any method?
No.
Nope.
You could do a slight bloom if you would like. And what that is just doing a little, basically like 40 to 45 grams of hot water in over your bed of coffee. Let it bubble a little and then pour the rest of your coffee. You can do a slight bloom.
Let's talk about the bloom for a second because there's blooms in a ton of brewing methods. So the bloom for coffee / science nerds. So the bloom, the purpose of the bloom is to release gases in the coffee out into the air. So you'll notice when you do the bloom and you just let it sit, the coffee like bubbles because gases are being released, CO2 gases are being released, and that's allowing the water to permeate into the coffee. It acts as like a barrier. So as soon as that can be released, the water can get inside the coffee for brewing. So that's what the importance of the bloom is.
So it actually is what you're saying is that the importance of the bloom actually helps the water brew the most coffee out of your coffee. That's awesome.
Coffee out of your coffee. Anything nicer looking than a good bloom? Absolutely nothing. 4 minutes. Let's.
Are we plunging?
Okay. So.
Oh, we're not plunging. I need a
mug. I need to pour out my brew water. We'll be right back, people. We're not leaving you stranded.
Oh my god.
I can still hear you in my AirPods, but.
We totally.
Okay, so let's do 2 methods here, Natalie.
Okay, are you gonna plunge or do you want me to plunge?
So I will plunge. You want to explain what you're doing?
I'm not plunging. Okay.
Okay, you're not plunging. I will plunge.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna plunge.
Yeah.
For those who want to try my method, I'm gonna plunge down and pour my coffee out. You want to pour your coffee out?
Yeah, I'm really nervous.
As fast as you can. Perfection. Cheers.
So I did not plunge. I need to be careful though because my guy's so little.
Yes. When you have a moment, explain why.
So the reason I did not plunge, and this was something that Matt and I both learned this week, because obviously we're not drinking French press every day. So we did some research. Plunging, actually, here, I need that to move down just a little bit. So as you saw when Matt plunged, he essentially pushed the grounds down to the bottom, and all of the liquid went up through the grounds and through the filter. By doing that, he agitated the grounds, and all of the sediment which is like the little tiny micro grounds, got mixed up in the coffee and probably ended up in his cup. Theoretically, if you do not plunge, because plunging does not actually do anything to brew your coffee. It's not a necessary step for your coffee to brew. So theoretically, now mine was a little small, so I don't think it actually worked as well. If you had a bigger one, I think this would work better.
Right.
If you don't plunge and you just pour, the grounds just sink to the bottom anyways.
Yeah.
And the water off the top will just pour, and there won't be that re-agitation, and so you won't get some of that sediment that you do normally get with a French press. Normally you get little extra oily bits, you get little extra pieces because there is no paper filter to catch all that stuff. Now, I'm gonna take my sip and we'll see if not plunging was a pro move or not.
I mean, mine is great. Just what I needed.
A little bit, but again, I think it's because my thing is so small that the grind and the water were already all mixed up.
Yep.
So I have a little bit, but it's not bad.
Not bad. Not bad. There you have it. So you got French press techniques. You got 2 different methods, plunge and no plunge. Plunge is kind of like the classic way to make a French press. This new craze, which is not plunging.
No
just
plunge.
bringing the plunger to the surface of the coffee and allowing the water at the top above the grinds at the bottom to come out without as much sediment and oil, so you get a cleaner cup, which means more flavor and less of the silty, oily stuff that we're used to with a French press. So there you have it.
I recommend.
I recommend. Rome and Stock and Crown approved.
The French press is so fun. It's super easy to make big batches of coffee if you have a bigger French press. It's super convenient. No waste. The only downside is the cleaning side, but I mean, you get used to it.
Yeah, that's a big thing we should mention is the plunger comes apart. It does come apart. So there's 3 pieces.
Yeah.
So make sure when you're cleaning, you take those apart so that you have, because it's having all the coffee in one place with the water, it can be kind of like an oily, messy attachment. So make sure you keep that clean.
And most French presses can go in the dishwasher, which is also nice. Some don't. You have glass pieces, so you do want to be careful. But overall, French press is quality. Big fan.
Yep.
I want to try this milk situation another time.
Another time.
That's like laughing. It's like so dumb. Why did she
I mean, I trust you. If you think it's a good idea, then sure.
I thought it was just like a basic hack, but I was watching. This is how nerdy I got yesterday. I was watching the 2019 World Barista Champions.
Yep.
If you guys if you're into coffee, you ever want to watch those on YouTube, they're insane. Like when people talk about their routines, they're like insane. So the commentators, yes, there's commentators. It's like a full sport. The commentators were talking about this Polish woman who went on to win in 2019, talking about how she competes in like latte art competitions and different competitions, and she's very in the competition circuit. And they mentioned that one competition, instead of using a steam wand, she used a French press in competition. And I was like, that's it. Seal of approval.
That's it.
Like,
I'm selling my espresso machine.
She's like, she's killed it. So
soon at Rome Coffee, you will see like 3 or 4, 6 French presses, and you'll see a French press for brewing and then for milk.
French press life.
It's an all-in-one. All right, that's all for this week. We will let everyone know what our next topic's going to be for next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
Talk to you guys soon.
Bye.